Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so grateful that you're here. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. My name is Lexi Thierry and I am a online personal trainer and spiritual mentor, and I also just happen to do YouTube sometimes. So if you are here for the first time, go ahead and give this video a like, or if you have been watching my videos for a while, then still give it a like. Today's video is gonna be all about like a health update, okay? So if you follow me on Instagram, if you don't, my Instagram handle is right here. You should follow me. I have been dealing with a lot of health issues for a long time, and people have just been asking me to update everybody, so here we go. Let's get into it. Before I kind of give you an update, if you're new to my channel, I kind of need to give you a backstory and what's going on with my life. It's kind of important. So for like 5 years now, I have dealt with serious gut slash hormone slash overall body pain slash stress slash just so many things that it's silly if I were to sit here and try to list them all. But I have been trying to figure out an answer to what all is going on for the past 5 years, and I have found nothing, literally nothing. And it's been really frustrating if you've ever been in that type of situation before where you are trying to find an answer to a really important health situation and you keep getting no answer. It kind of messes with your mind a little bit, and you kind of start thinking am I actually even sick? Am I actually in pain? So basically during all of this, I'm like, am I ever gonna find an answer? Am I ever gonna figure out what's wrong? Should I keep even trying, or should I just kind of accept the fact that this is gonna be my life and I'm gonna live with this? And I just never really got to that point of completely giving up. And I don't know why, because there's a lot of times that I could have, but I just needed to find an answer because I knew that I wasn't supposed to live in chronic pain, and I knew that I wasn't supposed to live in chronic pain without an answer, I guess is the way that I want to say it. And so I don't know why I thought having an answer, an actual just diagnosis or an answer to what was going on was going to just magically make things a little bit better, because it's definitely not. But so a little bit of the backstory of kind of some of the things that I'm going through / went through. I had an eating disorder basically all through high school. I'm 22 now, so that was 6 years ago. And that eating disorder stopped my senior year. And for some reason, that same time that my eating disorder stopped was the same time that I started getting super bad, gastrointestinal pain, really bad digestion, really bad brain fog, and just a whole bunch of crazy stuff started happening that really just didn't make sense to me at the time, because I was like, what the heck? I just stopped my eating disorder. Why is my body doing this to me? It was kind of felt like a punishment, I guess. And it started to get really bad. It was so bad that my now husband, who was my boyfriend then, he would stay the night at my house because he lived super far away, not in the same room, in different rooms. And I would have such bad, it was such bad pain that I couldn't move, but I also had to, because I couldn't decide if I was gonna throw up or it was gonna happen the other way, you know what I mean? And so I had to crawl to the bathroom, and it just ended up with me just laying on the ground, not being able to move because I was in so much pain in my stomach. It was the way that I describe the pain is gas pain times 500 mixed with just this imagine a band of just knives and fire and little, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was so uncomfortable and it was so painful, and I just was miserable, and it happened so many times. And I tried to figure out some triggers, try to figure out some things that was would make it happen. And so one of them I really found was stress, which is super sad. But actually on my wedding day, of all days, my wedding day, I had one of these flare-ups is what I would call them. And boy, it made me pretty much lay on the floor of my mom's hair salon while people were getting ready and people were putting makeup on me and stuff, because I was in so much pain I couldn't move. And this was 2 hours before I walked down the aisle. And so I went into my honeymoon feeling like this. I went into my honeymoon really, really sick. So bad I would never have not gone, but it was so bad that I could have not gone. So that was that. And then also at the same time, it was like I hadn't had my period in 8 years, which I had been on birth control that long, but my birth control was actually supposed to have a period with it. Like I was supposed to have a period, and I never got one. So that was really concerning too, but I didn't know it was concerning at the time. I just was like, well, like I just don't have a period. That's kind of great, but it actually really wasn't. And so I didn't have a period. I had these super bad gastrointestinal like flare-ups type things that literally like what made me, I couldn't even think about anything. And I also noticed that like with certain foods, I like did not digest the food. Like I didn't digest it. Or like for example, apples. If I would eat an apple, it was almost like that the instant I ate it and it like got into my stomach acid or something, it like attacked my body. Like that's the only way that I can describe it. It was like I couldn't breathe because it was just like stabbing pain. And so I went to a gastroenterologist. Actually, first of all, I went to a nutritionist because this was when I was married. This is about 3 years later. I never really did anything about it, but 3 years later, a year after I was married, I started to go to a dietitian because I was like, let's just figure this thing out. So we ran some tests, and one of the tests that I ran was called an MRT test, and it basically is just testing for foods that cause inflammation. And so I was supposed to do the MRT diet, which basically just means eating all the foods that were like green and avoiding the foods that came up red and yellow, which were like the foods that were labeled inflammatory. So I did that, and it actually made everything worse. And I was like, what is going on? And my dietitian at the time was just like, no, just keep with it, whatever. But I was in so much pain I couldn't even eat. And it was kind of a really sad situation because I had just come out of this eating disorder a few years prior, and now I'm like scared of food again. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So about a year after that, I actually herniated my disc in my back and my neck. And so I had to stay out of the gym for an entire year. I couldn't do any activity other than walking. So that was freaking hard because at the same time that that was happening, I also just launched in my online business, my online personal training business. So I was like, well, here I am, this personal trainer who's super fit and healthy, and I can't work out, and I don't know why my food is hating me type of thing. So then after I stopped going to that dietitian, I was like, it was still being really bad. I was eating, keep in mind, I wasn't eating crap. Like, yeah, a few times a week I would eat something like lactose-free ice cream, or like a Lenny and Larry's cookie, stuff like that. But it wasn't every day. Like I was a very healthy person because I liked that lifestyle. But I also wasn't restricted at all. Like I didn't keep myself from eating things that I wanted to just because it was like nachos or something. I mean, if I was in a social situation where that could happen and I knew I could control myself, I did that. And I still tell my clients to do that now because you're a human being and you should be able to do that. Anyway, that's another story. But so I went to a gastroenterologist because I was like, dude, you need to help me. Like, you need to figure out what's going on. He ran a whole bunch of other tests, told me he wanted me to get a colonoscopy and endoscopy, but he only wanted to get those because he wanted to rule out Crohn's or colitis, or IBD, which is like, IBD is Crohn's and colitis type of thing. And he was like, but I'm 99.9% sure that you just have IBS. And so I was like, why am I going to get those super expensive procedures, super invasive procedures, if you're just going to tell me that I have a 99.9% chance of having IBS? Like, I'm not going to do that. So I didn't go see him again because first of all, he's really creepy and it was just a really bad situation. I could go into detail about that, but he's now fired for malpractice, so that tells you that. And so I just kind of lived with it for a while. And at the same time that all of this was going on, I was still out of the gym. And this period in my life was a really transformational period because I was using that time to, instead of growing or shrinking, I guess, in my physical body, I was growing spiritually. And so God was really pulling on my heartstrings and I was really growing in love for Him. And so it was a cool period, but it was also like very much what's going on in my body. I didn't feel at home in my body, especially because now I didn't just have this this gut pain that literally like debilitated me for weeks at a time. I also had this herniated disc in my back and my neck. And so I was like just this vegetable pretty much. This is what I felt like. and I was scared to eat. I was scared of, eating the wrong thing and it putting me down for a couple days. Because when that happened, I couldn't go to school. I couldn't do anything that I normally would do because it just hurt so bad. And so then about a year later after that, I finally found this company that I heard about from just like some other like Instagram influencers who had worked with them before and who had some really great success with some of their gastrointestinal things and just like some success stories that they've had with gut issues and stuff. So I reached out to them and I started working with them in March of 2018. It's now March of 2019. And I started working with my coach and it was great, whatever. I was super happy that I was working with her. I gave her all the test results of all of the first dietitian and the gastroenterologist had done and told her that all of them had come back negative. She ran a few more tests, just testing things like my thyroid, like some stool tests, which are really weird, to test like parasites and stuff like that, and still nothing. It was absolutely nothing other than like one small marker that said I had an overgrowth of bacteria, which is like, duh. We tried, I'm not even kidding you, so many diets. We tried keto, we tried Mediterranean, we tried the MRT again, we tried just basically eating fat, just basically eating carbs, eating specific types of protein and not other types, eating only specific types of carbs. Throughout this entire year, I have done everything. So please, if you're at this point in the video and you want to give me a suggestion of what to do, please don't. Because if you put in the comments something that you suggest for me to do or to try, or some like pill that you tried or whatever, please don't. That's not what this video is about either. I'm just updating you, and I've had so many people tell me that like, you need to try Plexus, you need to try celery juice, and I'm like, you don't even know. I've done all of that multiple times. And the dietitian had never worked with somebody who was as hard of a case as I was. Because, normally clients see a change in 3 months, and here I am 6 months later, and I have absolutely no change. And we've tried multiple different supplements, natural supplements, not like antibiotics or anything like that. It was like herbs that we tried because I want to do this thing the natural way. I don't want to take antibiotics because that's a whole different story. And it got to the point with this specific dietitian where she was just like, I don't know what else to do. Like, this is way above the knowledge that I have, and I feel like I've tried everything. And I forgot to even mention that I've done things like fasting, liquid diet. I'm actually on a liquid diet right now, which is what I'll get to later. But I've done everything. And she was just like, I don't know what else to do. It's not making sense to me. So the CEO of the company, who is really hard to work with, or really hard to like get a chance to work with, is what I mean. He actually wanted to take over my case because he's like, I need to help this girl. I need to figure out what's going on. So he took over my case in December, at the end of December, and it's March now, so about 3 months. He's been doing very specific things. Like, it has been so hard, you guys. This last year, it's been so hard because it's very restrictive. I've been restricted to the same foods for the entire year. Same food or no food, and it's hard to deal with social situations, and it's hard to deal with date nights and stuff because I can't do those things. And it's not because like I can't do them, it's that this is treatment. It's not me trying to do a diet. Like, this is actual like health, like for my body, like to live a normal life. And to be able to eat foods that I want, and to not have liquid diets and only be able to eat chicken and rice and broccoli and stuff like that. And so about 3 weeks ago, my dietitian was like, we got to do another test. We got to do one more because we still weren't seeing any changes. And he had tried multiple different things at that point. 3 days later, we got to talk about your test results. As soon as he said that, I was like, should I be prepared to hear really bad news? And he was like, well, you should just keep an open mind about it. And I was like, cool. So he goes on to tell me that my test results came back with a diagnosis. And I was like, oh yeah, heck yeah, let's do this thing. You know, now that I know what's going on, we can fight it correctly. And he was like, well, you have an autoimmune disease. You have potentially the autoimmune disease called lupus. He also told me, from my understanding, when you have one autoimmune disease, you also have another autoimmune disease, which in my case, he believes it to be IBS and lupus. And the thing that makes so much sense now is that when you have an autoimmune disease, your gut bacteria is super affected, which is why they usually go hand in hand. He also said that things like your hormones are jacked up, which makes sense because I didn't have my period for 8 years. Even though I was on birth control and I should have had my period, and I also just had like no sex drive, brain fog, like a bunch of other symptoms that just didn't make sense. Hair loss, all that kind of stuff. And he was like, this makes a lot of sense because what happens is lupus is like if you have chronic inflammation in some part of your body, it triggers the lupus. So for me, the first thing that triggered the lupus was the gut, which happened right after I stopped my eating disorder, which was chronic inflammation because I was constantly throwing up and just like making my gut crazy. And then after that, I had my herniated disc in my back and neck from overuse of both my low back and my shoulder, which caused both of those herniations. So when those two things happened, or I guess three things happened, my lupus was triggered. To like max, which caused these flare-ups, right? So it makes so much sense, but it's super hard for me to deal with because now that I have this diagnosis, I have to go through all of these treatments, all of these procedures, all of these more tests to figure out if it's even treatable, if it's even manageable, which my Vince really believes that it is, and he believes that he can give me the best quality of life if I go through treatment. And so that's what I'm doing right now. And the other thing that I want to mention is, I'm really sorry if this is a lot of information, but I just like need to get it out to somebody, so why not get it out to a bunch of YouTubes? He said that, you know, now that we have this autoimmune diagnosis, and I have to go to a rheumatologist to figure out like the actual diagnosis, because it looks like lupus right now, but it really could be something else, which none of the other ones really make sense, but I still have to like get it confirmed by an actual rheumatologist. On the gut side of things, he's like, all right, well, since you have this diagnosis of an autoimmune disease, let's look at IBD. Now, what happens with IBD a lot of times is there's this stuff called biofilm. And I don't know enough about it to sit here and explain it to you, but what I do know is that it is a turd to kill. And I think it basically can just be chalked up to a way big overgrowth of bacteria, which prevents you from doing things like digesting and absorbing. And so I have a lot of biofilm, which makes sense. And it's kind of just like every time my lupus triggers, my immune system is down, which means the bacteria in my gut can grow and grow and grow and grow. And so from this constant inflammation of my back and my neck and my body kind of freaking out, my gut has not been able to like repair itself every time. It's just kind of like this constant regrowth of bad bacteria, I guess. Because of that, we have been trying to kill this bacteria. We've been trying to do really intense, restrictive, stressful diets. Stressful just on my mind, like not on my body. Well, kind of on my body too. But like right now, I'm on a 3-day, it's like a fast only from solid food. So I'm doing 3 days of only liquid, and I don't know if you can see how nasty this is, but it literally tastes like battery acid. Smells like battery acid, is really hard to choke down. It's awful. But I only have to do it for 3 days at a time. So it's 3 days of liquid, 3 days of specific food and at specific times with specific supplements, then back to this, then back to that. And it just kind of is like pulsing. And then the times when I'm eating is when it's like opening up the bacteria, or it's like closing the bacteria off again. So the times when I'm eating is kind of like closing the bacteria off again, giving it a second to like chill out so that I don't like get super sick. And then we hit it again and we hit it again. So it's just this constant process of kill, feed, kill, feed, kill, feed. And and this is only my second week of doing this. It's my second round of like the liquid part, and it's really hard because for some reason every time I go on this liquid side of the plan, I have like a social event where there's food, and it's just like, yeah, I got my battery acid. Overall, like, I know that I'm talking about this and I'm like, I don't seem maybe super upset about it, maybe just annoyed. But I'm honestly at a really good place with it. Like, I trust God in this so much that it's silly. Like, when I first got the news, absolutely not. I was like, what? This? Like, yes, it could be worse, but I was just like, it was a hard reality, I guess, because I just kind of came to the conclusion that I wasn't going to ever get a diagnosis after that failed attempt at really thinking I was going to get one. I just thought that, you know, working with this new dietitian was going to just help me manage it, I guess. But now that I have this diagnosis that was, like, not what I expected, it was just hard to deal with at first because I was like, well, I mean, it makes sense. I'm not crazy. But also, like, it's kind of a little hint into my future of the possibility of never being free from chronic pain and never being able to eat the foods that I want to eat. And I just don't really believe that. Neither does my dietitian. He's like, you know, with some people with lupus, they have to be actually most people, they have to be super strict with their diet and their exercise and stuff like that. And he's like, well, you'll have to be really careful about the way that you live your life, so that neither of them flare up. But he's like, I really believe that we'll be able to work through this and figure something out. I'm just like, if God has brought me this far and he has used this thing, this really annoying, unfortunate circumstance to, in fact, grow me in my faith, because it's literally what he's done. Like, that entire year I had off of training, this year so far, I have had nothing but growth in my faith and trust for God. So I'm like, why? I very much think it was an equipping. Like, it was an equipping season, and just kind of like pushing me towards this point to be like, all right, well, here's your answer. I've grown you in your faith. I've rooted you in this faith, or, you know, I have taken the time to root in my faith and really stand firm on the promises of God. And I'm just like, I can hear this diagnosis, and I don't know if I'm not going to wrap my identity around. I'm not going to chain my identity to this thing that is not even like, that I don't really believe God wants for me. So yeah, basically the other point of this video is that if you've gotten to this point, I want you to know that if you're going through any type of disease or struggle in your health right now and you haven't gotten answers, or maybe you have and you're just kind of feeling lonely and like you'll never get past it, or you're just losing hope, please don't. I hope that my story can be just encouragement to you to know that, like, God uses everything. And God is good through this. He's always good through stuff like this. So yeah, that is all. That is my update. Thank you guys so much for watching. And also comment down below if you have something like an autoimmune disease or something that you're fighting through right now, and we can fight together. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Remember to love God, love yourself, love people, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.